Oh, and it's time for the cake.
Oh, heck, Lemming, my favourite.
Happy birthday to Jane, happy birthday to Jane, happy birthday is you're Jane, happy
me.
birthday to Jane.
Okay.
Right, time to blow out the candles.
Okay. It's getting harder.
Oh, well done. What did you wish for?
Queer and pleasant strangers.
Wonder if it'll come true.
Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types, have a bit of a catch-up about media we've consumed in the week and do silly voices and skits and just try and make each other have a bit of a giggle.
Yeah.
We're catching up on what we've been up to.
Catch up.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm concerned about the fact that Smudge is trying to sit on the mouse.
You have a thing on your lap so I can't sit there.
Oh, you can.
I'm not sure.
Don't you let the soft thing disturb you from also being a soft thing on
Yeah,
my
just
lap.
don't lie on the on the mouse and ruin the recording. Well, we've been playing things this week.
We've played, watched, and listened to some things. We'll
Yeah.
talk about some things that we've played.
Yeah, where should we start?
I feel like you've played more things than I have. So
I played a batch.
Dig in?
I played a batch of things.
Oh.
Where do I start? Let's get the one out the way that the day we're recording this, the review went up for.
Ooh.
I played The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Well, I played it before last week, but I can talk about it now.
Yes.
And I'm going to start this section off by quickly talking about something I talked about in my accessibility review that's up on YouTube, which is, hey, I would recommend going and reading a article on Vice called The Not So Hidden Israeli Politics of The Last of Us 2. I've seen a few people sharing it today. I am glad that, some more attention is being paid to that, and I'm not alone in highlighting this. It is an article by an Israeli writer about the fact that the game's creator, Neil Druckmann, has said in interviews more than once that the story is at least partially inspired by his growing up in Israel and his view on the Israel-Palestine conflict, and specifically his view that retributive anger and the desire to get the anger that fuels you to want revenge is a universal experience, is his view. And this is an article from an Israeli writer who's basically let's look at the game through the lens of an Israeli person was trying to make a commentary on Israel and Palestine. What does this game seem to suggest
Both sides
through that lens?
Seems to be the...
Yeah, the takeaway that this writer comes away with is it's somewhat typical Israeli centrism in as much as it sort of has this perspective of everyone is equally as justified to be angry about their situation, and therefore nothing to be done about it. The status quo will just happen, which is a privileged position to take in that situation. Yes. And specifically, it's this writer going, hey, I also grew up in Israel. I saw the same events that apparently fueled Neil Druckmann to write The Last of Us 2. I had very different feelings about that event, and it's a very important read as someone who isn't, I'm not Jewish, I'm not from Israel. It was a big insight into things I did not know about Palestine that I was unaware The Last of Us 2 sort of bakes into how it represents its two sides of its conflict.
Yes.
And I think that is a very interesting read, and it is, I think, very significant that game only came out coming up on 4 years ago, and that piece of writing, I think, is very much being, looked to more today than it was previously.
Yes.
So I think that's well worth a read, and I'll say what I said on accessibility. There deserves to be a free Palestine, and Israel is, justifying war crimes right now on the basis of self-defense.
Yes. And go South Africa for bringing the fucking receipts.
Right. Go Ireland, who have largely as a country been, doing the right things. Also go watch, the video game industry needs to talk about Palestine over on People Make Games. Really, really good video. That all said, I have played The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and the first thing I can say about it is really simple. From an accessibility perspective, the only thing it really does is adds audio descriptions, which are basically the same as those seen in The Last of Us Part 1 Remastered, which is to say, they are good, I'm glad that they're there, they are an improvement to the game. They only exist in cutscenes, and that's really disappointing. It fixes the biggest issue I had with The Last of Us 2 upon its release accessibility-wise, which is it's playable start to finish by sightless blind players, but
they
so
don't
much
always
of
know what's going on.
yeah, and this does fix a lot of that, but there's a lot of scripted sequences where the character's position is known, the movements they're about to do are known, you could totally add in audio descriptions during those moments, and the game chooses not to, and that is a hurdle the industry still needs to overcome.
Yeah, wasn't there a couple of times, like right near the beginning in that intro scene, wasn't there a couple of things there, mentioned some stuff?
Barely. Occasionally at the end of a cutscene, just as you're being handed control, you'll get one tiny bit of audio description. Like right at the start there is, you're riding a horse.
Yes.
It gives you that much context. That's not consistently told to you when you get on a horse.
in woodland, or it's covered in snow.
You know, there's a lot of things that like feel like they could be triggered the same way that like in-game conversation triggers are handled. And it's a shame that they haven't overcome that gap, and it's a shame that the audio descriptions are bundled in as part of a paid update. It's $10 to upgrade from the PS4 version, it's not the end of the world. I still wish this part had been free.
Yeah, it also needs to do something with the audio balance, because there was a couple of times where you were playing, particularly one scene where, like, Abby was going, trying to get into a place and going through, like, one side of a fence, and the other side of the fence was being attacked. And there was a couple of times like, did you just hear an audio description kind of happening in the background?
Yes, so the game, like, if you turn on audio descriptions, it doesn't balance the rest of the audio to accommodate for that.
It doesn't duck it or anything.
Usually, the default audio description volume is fine, but occasionally there'll be a very loud scene and an audio description, and you'll just kind of miss it. And, like, granted, it doesn't take a lot of guesswork to go, I hear a lot of monster fighting sounds, she's being attacked probably right now. But, like, it's still a shame. It's not perfect, but I'm super glad it's there.
Yes.
But there is some other stuff added in this update. There is a roguelike mode that got added called No Return. It's interesting talking about this in the wake of having talked about the God of War Ragnarok roguelike mode the other week, because the two are night and day. They're both from Sony first-party studios. They're both sort of post-launch roguelike mode updates. But whereas God of War Ragnarok was free and had like a big narrative connected to it and added in a lot of new things and it felt really substantial. This is part of a paid update and it feels less substantial. I don't know how much of that is just it couldn't be narrative because they want to give you control of a bunch of different characters from the main game whose fates are indeterminate, you know, whatever, to give you lots of different loadouts to play around with. And I do appreciate that they essentially have like 10 different starting classes based on different characters, and I like the unlock system of how you work through those.
Yeah, you might get some slightly unusual things of, hang on, why are these two characters hanging out together?
And here's the thing. I think it's not bad by any means. I like it mechanically. I think it is a neat addition to the game, and if you really enjoy the shooting in The Last of Us, this is a really good excuse to, like, have a lot of that not interrupted by plot. But
it feels like a pretty solid aspect of those games.
Yeah, it plays really well, and I'm saying this from my perspective. I am never playing The Last of Us because I'm looking for an opportunity to play a shooter. I'm playing that because I want to go through the plot. Like, that's what always drew me to that series, and the shooting was something I did as part of that. It's not a thing that I seek out, and as such, I don't get into that sort of flow state I did with, you know, that I do with a lot of roguelikes, where I just one more run, I'm really in the flow of this. It is much more, I'm doing shooting, and that's just not my preferred engagement method. But, like, I like that they have a variety of different mission types, and that they're very clear on this little whiteboard of, like, what kind of challenge you're going to face as you go through, and it's a nice little addition. I think it's good that it's there. There is a director's commentary track, which is only available if you've completed the game already. You can import your save from the PS4 version, but I had some weirdness where I have completed the PS4 version, and I imported, like, I think I'd done a New Game Plus,
right? And
I imported my save, and it was like, well, you haven't completed this save, you're, like, partway through, so no no director's commentary.
Okay.
Unless you play through the whole rest of the game to get to it.
Okay.
Which is like, it's a little wobbliness. I get why they want to do that, but I'm like, just make directors. If someone's paid for a director's commentary mode, just let them access it. Trust them that they're not going to spoil themselves, and if they do that's what they want to do.
People might not have their saves anymore, or for whatever reason, or play it on a different console, or...
Because I'm trying to work out, like, my only rationale I can think of why I might, like, maybe I don't have my save, is did I need to record footage of the first boot up menu at some point?
Yeah,
and the only way to get it was to permanently delete my save and my save data, and therefore I don't have that.
We certainly have needed footage of that several times.
Yeah, so it might be something like that. Yeah, look, it looks... I'm going to be honest, it looks the same as that. It apparently it's been visually upgraded. It looks how I remember it looking. It was a very good-looking PS4 game.
3 years ago.
Right, it was tail end of the PS4, and it was one of the better-looking PS4 games. It still looks real good. There's some new additional content in here. If you want the best version of this game, this is the best way to play this game. And if you are someone who is, partially sighted or sightless blind player, you will benefit from the audio descriptions being there. It fixes the biggest problem this game had accessibility-wise. It is the same game, but with a few new things bolted on. Do you want a survival mode or a audio descriptions? It's a tenner. What about you? What have you been playing this week?
Well, we played a game together, which is tangentially both a board game and a video game.
Oh, I know what this is. Is this what we played today?
Yeah, we played Stardew Valley, the board game.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've done a gorgeous job, I think, of basically just putting all of the graphics from the video game straight onto the board.
Yep.
It helps that it is like a really nice, good, clear art style. Mm-hmm. It works really well in that aspect. The map is quite confusing initially to look at, but fairly quickly you can start moving fairly quickly. The concept is you are basically multiplayering this. Each person can have a class, so you can have someone who's a farmer or a miner or a fisher person or a forager,
and that will give you slight specifications to be, as the game goes on, be a bit better at that thing specifically.
And you are trying to make friends by giving them stuff that you have either foraged or grown or whatever, and generate hearts, and those hearts are spent on discovering what you need in order to
fix up the community centre
and ward off Jojo Mart. And you also have a bunch of missions to do from your grandfather. So you have 6 rooms to fix in the community centre, 4 of your granddad's missions, and that might be things like have 2 animals per player.
Or build 1 building per player.
Yeah.
Or make this many friends per player.
Or upgrade your starting items this number of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got the stuff at the community centre is very much like it is in-game. You're finding certain items, and they might be specific to a season. Like, you might need to find, foraged items from that particular season and try and work out how best to hand those over. You've also got fishing, so there's 3 points on the map you can go to and do fishing, and that involves rolling some dice, and if your dice match what is on the dice, what is on the fish in that particular location, you can grab those up, and then you can either sell them or keep them for gifts.
Yeah.
But you've only got a little inventory of 6 items, so you have to be a bit careful with that stuff.
It's a pretty fast-moving game in that you have a deck of here are your 4 seasons, and every round you turn over a card, and a few things will happen, and it might be your plants get watered, or these abilities activate, or a crow eats something from your farm, and, things happen. Each player then takes basically 2 actions, which can either be in the same place, or you can do 1 action, move along a road, do another action.
And if you move along a road, you can forage something from the side.
And your actions are pretty simple and basic. They're just the locations on the board, and it's you do your 2 actions each, turn over another card, do your 2 actions each, turn over another card. Ooh, a season's over. It moves at a pretty brisk pace once you sort of get your head around it.
Yeah, definitely. And basically each character will start with an item, and that might be the pick, the hoe, trying to remember what else is in there, the fishing rod, and
the watering can.
The watering can. So all a little bit different, and they will upgrade further on. So you had the pick, which was allowing you to pick or move, basically not rely so much on dice rolls and be able to mitigate things a little bit.
The mining minigame is you roll 2 dice and
one is your X coordinate.
Yeah, there'll be one or 2 locations that will indicate you can mine, and then this would allow me to slightly modify my results to mine somewhere like adjacent to where I'd rolled to have a bit more flexibility.
Yeah. It was a really nice idea. It's cool to see all the different characters in there and the way that works. Occasionally you'll have to pull a tile out of the Jojo Mart stack or the Jojo Corp stack, and it'll be things like, oh, we've polluted this river, so you can't fish from here until you deal with that. And like there is a version of the game that's like super difficult where you try and finish the game and also make sure that there's no Jojo Mart stuff on the board at the end. So extra annoyances in there. It's fascinating because it's got like a solo mode. It's got 3 different methods of scoring. The way we played, the extra difficult one where you add more Jojo spawning stuff into the season deck, and you have to try and finish without any. And then there's another version where you don't bother pulling out, you don't bother doing the community center stuff. You just have to do your Grandad's missions.
Yeah.
There's a short version where you only have to do 2 of Grandad's quests and 3 things in the community center. So it's nice that you can futz around with it in loads of different ways. It seems to be pretty good at scaling.
Yeah.
So, like a lot of the things are X per player. So it does, like, when it was how many friends per player, I think was one of ours. It would have been perfectly fine for one person to have 6 friends and the other person to have none, and still have accounted for that.
Yeah.
Which means you can sort of have 1 or 2 people sort of sort of focusing on one thing, maybe just going up and down the same couple of roads, foraging there, doing things that are particularly suited to their class or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have like a shared pool of money, and all of the like plants, all the crops and stuff. So anytime crops are harvested, it's be like, yep, okay, cool. Everyone can divide that among them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fascinating little game. I think they've done a really good job of translating it from a video game into a board game, and yeah, I'm very excited to play more of it. In fact, I might do some of that tomorrow after I finish editing this.
Yay.
What about you? What else have you played?
I played and reviewed for the first time in, I think, about 4 years, a Ubisoft game this week. And listen to me, I'm going to do another preface before I talk about a game. I know. So, hey, if you followed me and my stuff for a while, you might know I don't generally talk about Ubisoft games when I can help it. In the summer of 2020, I believe it was, maybe 2021, there were a bunch of allegations of abuse from upper management toward, workers within Ubisoft. A year later, another report did the rounds that was basically like, nothing's actually changed within a lot of studios. A few studios have reported improvements in satisfaction. Others have gone, nope, I still feel just as not, safe within the workplace as I previously did.
And then, like, a year after that, most of the people who had been almost brought in to try and balance the numbers because there was a huge gender disparity in management stuff, they brought people in to try and clean things up, and a bunch of those people just left because they were like, nothing's changing, I can't fix this.
Yeah, so given that caveat, I tend not to talk about Ubisoft games, but I feel the need to make an exception for on occasion, because as someone that does talk a lot about accessibility in video games, I cannot deny the fact that Ubisoft is probably in the top 3 big AAA publishers in terms of reliably, repeatedly doing accessibility pretty correctly. This specific game I wanted to talk about was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which is a 2.5D side-scrolling action platformer Metroidvania. So it's
kind of going back to the original Prince of Persia side-scrolling stuff on MS-DOS and
that sort of thing. So the basic gist is you are one of these like big legendary warriors, and the prince has been stolen and taken to some mountain to be sacrificed, and basically you run off to go and try and rescue him, and it turns out this mountain is it's a weird time bubble here and everything's quite bad and cursed. Do a Metroidvania to go find and save him. This is Ubisoft's first game to have high contrast mode.
Yes.
Which, it's really neat that we're reaching a point where, like, just a couple of months ago, I could have on one hand counted the number of studios that have attempted high contrast mode implementations, and now it's like, we're coming up on the point where it's going to be like
Two hands.
almost half of the big studios will have attempted it at least once, which is pretty neat.
Let's hope they continue.
This game's implementation of high contrast mode is pretty good. It has 3 different presets for like what colors the various things in the game can be. Those appear to be based around common types of color blindness to make sure that there is at least a high contrast mode that will be visible for people.
There was the grayscale background thing.
Yep, you can do the grayscale background, or you can highlight, all the things in bright colors, or you can mix and match which of them you do. You can't fully customize the color selection yourself, but not the worst thing. To talk a little bit about the game itself before I get into the other accessibility stuff, it is a sort of melee-focused game where you have you've got you've got your swords, you've got a bow and arrow with limited arrows that replenish. You've always got a ranged attack available once you unlock this sort of throwable chakram thing that sort of bounces back to you. And you have a meter that builds up when you attack enemies, and you can use it to do big specials. And as you go through, you unlock all sorts of traversally things like, mid-air dashes and stuff to, as a Metroidvania, help you progress and continue. I really appreciate that there's a lot of accessibility stuff available around, difficulty and input consistency.
Yeah, because you've got all the different difficulty base settings, and then you've got custom mode, where you can just futz around with little granular bits.
And I like that when you're on the difficulty selection screen and you don't just have the name of the difficulty, it's oh yeah, this is how the numbers will literally change based on which one you pick. This mode, if you go up a difficulty mode, that's increasing the enemy health and the enemy damage or whatever.
And it doesn't give you a full list of like you see in custom, but it does give you 3 distinct meters of enemy health, enemy damage, and I can't remember what the third one is.
So you know how much of a difficulty increase or decrease it's going to be, and that's really nice. There's stuff built around, do you want to have more lenient timing for parries? Which is someone that really struggles with parries. I really appreciate just being...
You say that, but you did just finish Lies of P.
I did. I didn't do the parries very much. I just dodge rolled.
Yeah.
I dodge rolled religiously. I gave myself so much stamina I could dodge roll.
The ancient order of the dodge roll.
Because I would rather try and dodge roll than try and parry and fail and take a bunch of damage.
Yeah.
But also specifically for this, because one of the things that can build up your meter for doing special attacks is successfully parrying.
Okay.
And being able to go, I do want to stand my ground and try and do that. Give me a bigger parry window. Thank you. Really appreciate that. There is also the ability to turn off a button mashing quick time event that exists for if you get frozen and you have to mash to get unfrozen. There's a couple of things that are missing that I would have expected to see. You can't turn button holds into toggles, which is it's a little bit of a shame, but a lot of the stuff that's here is very good, thoughtful stuff around, making sure that, hey, is there a thing you're struggling with? Just make the window for that a little more comfortable. If you struggle with the difficult platforming sections of it, you can make...
portal past some of them?
You can turn on a setting so portals will appear, and you can try the platforming a few times, and if you're struggling, just click on the portal, and it'll just, teleport you right past that platforming section. No penalty.
And then there was the highlighting characters thing where you can have a little orb above. I guess it's interactive. But it's mainly only seen it on characters.
Yeah, I there's footage of it in the video that's going up this week that's on characters just because it was a convenient bit to grab footage of. But it's anything that's interactable in the world can have a little white dot on it if you turn that setting on, and that's really useful for is this plate on the floor that looks a little different to everything else something I can actually interact with right now, or is it just a background element?
Is it the joy of 2.5D?
Exactly. Is that a background element, or is it an interactable of some kind? And that kind of clarity is really appreciated.
Yeah.
But the big thing that the reason that I checked this out that I thought was really interesting is there is some really good stuff here in terms of navigating Metroidvanias if you're someone that struggles with visual memory and visualization, which is they have a setting called guided mode where always on the map there will be a little marker that's hey, the progression thing you're looking for is over here. Even if you don't know how to get to it, this is roughly the direction you're going to continue the game, which is really appreciated. It will automatically mark onto your map every time you find a doorway and whether it's currently accessible or not accessible. There are, there's the usual map markers you can place down manually for things, but if you want something a bit more specific, you're like, there's something here I need to remember to come back to, and I need to remember what it is I'm coming back to. You can press down on the D-pad to take a screenshot that gets pinned in place onto your map. So you can open up your map and look at a screenshot of what is in that place and go, that's what that is. I know what's happening. And that is such a nice feature. I like that feature so much. It avoids the situation of like, I put an enemy icon here on the map. Was that an enemy that's really good to grind for resources? Or an enemy I don't know how to kill yet?
Yeah.
I don't know what that meant. I don't remember. Let me look at a screenshot. Oh, it's that one. And yeah, that system's really, really nice. I very much appreciate it. All of that stuff comes together to be really, really welcoming. The game runs really nicely. Like, the Switch version doesn't feel at all pared down compared to other versions. There is a demo available that has the accessibility stuff in place, which is really nice. I appreciate being able to jump into the demo and, like, check out the accessibility stuff yourself. As I say, I don't talk about Ubisoft games a lot, but I don't know of another Metroidvania that is this accessible to me as someone that struggles to remember visual information and recall it.
Yeah, like, Metroid Dread was doing good work, but keep going.
That's it. Like, Metroid Dread, I gave praise when it released because, like, it had that ability to mark on your map, like, every time you find a door you can't go through, it'll mark it with a unique marker to go, it's this kind of door. When you work out how to open this kind of door, you know where you can backtrack to. But, like, that screenshot functionality is just one little additional step that makes such a big difference to that kind of functionality.
It's good stuff, and it's got a good tutorial from it, from what I saw.
Yeah, it really does. It's not brought up as if it's an accessibility feature, it's brought up by a character in-universe as just a cool feature that the game has. And I really appreciate that sort of not othering of using it.
And not locking it behind something that stops you getting other stuff.
Yeah, not making it a thing that you might miss if you didn't think to go look for it as a setting that hasn't really been done in games before. And a cool thing, allegedly, I've not tested this yet, but apparently if you have this game on multiple systems for some reason, it has cross-save. Your screenshots carry over across cross-save.
Oh, hell
so that
yeah.
your map marker screenshots work.
Nice.
And that's good consistency. So yeah, I was very impressed with how that game thought about accessibility, and I think that's pretty neat.
Yay.
What about you? What have you been playing this week?
I played a bit more Against the Storm.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember if I mentioned this around UDP or shortly after then, but I basically picked it up, started playing it on Steam Deck, and went, I need to be sat at a computer for this, because the UI is a bit too tiny for... Like, it's got some accessibility stuff for scaling that. But
not
there is
enough.
such an amount of data that needs to be shown to you. Because it's basically like a city builder.
Yeah.
I was going to say an RTS, but it's not quite an RTS. There are definitely some real-time elements to it, but basically this is a world where there is a massive storm that kind of just wipes everything out periodically. The only place that doesn't get wiped out is basically the capital city, and the Queen runs the capital city, and she just gets kind of grumpy and if you don't achieve things quickly enough. So there is that sort of like haste, but it's basically a roguelike city builder. So you will be plonked down in the middle of some woodland. There will be some little clearings around you that you could chop down trees to get into. You have... So far, I've only played enough that there have been like 3 active species. The humans, the lizard people, and the beavers. The beavers are great for cutting down trees. The lizards like working with meat, and the humans are good for like farming and brewing beer. Apparently they like doing that.
Agriculture.
Yeah, and slowly you are getting to do things like get specialized houses. Like in the demo missions or in the tutorial missions, I was able to unlock one type of specialized housing, and I picked beavers because beavers had been my MVP at that point. But in the second map, it was like, well, lizards are really the ones doing all the work. So when I got another chance to permanently unlock another building type, I was like, well, I guess the lizards now. And from what I can tell from screenshots, there are other species as well. So I guess I'm going to have to slowly unlock a bunch of different types of buildings. A lot of it so far has just been sort of tutorial stuff. But it has been like a really interesting concept of, yeah, okay, you know how to build all these things. You know how to, you're being slowly introduced to different types of things. The usual sort of city builder stuff of, okay, you need to get these basic resources like food. You can forage for that. You need to put a foraging hut down in the right sort of place. If you want to get like meat, you need like a specific type of a slaughterhouse. They will go and get certain types of animals from around you. They need to be within a certain range, and then you can process that through things like the smokehouse, and they will cure the meat into jerky. Or other places will do various other types of things. Like in the second part of the tutorial, instead of you're just foraging for food, it's like now you can build a farm next to fertile soil, and you can turn like all the fertile soil within the range of the farm into farmland, and they will just periodically grow whatever they've got seeds for, and you'll get like a bunch of things without having to run around the map hoping that there's enough shit to forage. You're introduced to concepts like the fact that you can futz around with rewards for things. Like you can go, I can't give you that, but if I swap it out for something I do have a bunch of, like jerky. I think one of the first examples is you're told to get scrolls, but if you swap the scrolls into, I think it's like silks or something, then you'll be able to satisfy that requirement and achieve end game stuff. Yeah, it's a fascinating idea. I'm looking forward to getting more into it. I did a whole stream of it. If you want to go check out twitch.tv/Janiac, the highlight is up there. And yeah, had a really nice time, and I'm looking forward to a bit more of that. And yeah, I think it's just a fascinating idea to do a roguelite city builder.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Have you played anything else?
I played through the little epilogue content that was just made available for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Mochi Madness.
So this is post Indigo Disc.
Yeah, so there's the 2 DLCs, and then there's like one tiny little epilogue at the end that's about an hour long, maybe. And without spoiling too much, it is basically a children's we sanded off the scary edges zombie apocalypse story.
Okay.
There is a new mythical Pokemon that is taking control of people's minds, and it's spreading sort of like the zombie outbreak would. But everyone who gets taken over starts doing a silly little chicken dance as they, like, ominously come towards you, being like, saying mochi at you. And, like, everything about, like, the colour grading and the toning and the pacing is, it's a zombie outbreak, the first people have been infected, we don't know what's going on, oh no, it's spreading, everyone run. But it's all through the medium of silly little sweets that make you do a chicken dance. It's kind of great. It's clearly they wanted to do a horror story, but knew that children were going to be playing potentially, and were like,
how do we do the most PG?
How do we make it clear what we're doing while not scaring your little brother that's watching over the corner of your sofa?
Plants versus Zombies of horror.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's silly. It's not anything huge. But what I will say is that for the last few years, or at least several times over the last few years, additional mythical Pokemon have been added post-release to Pokemon games, and they've just been a mystery gift code, where it's like you put a code in and now you have the new mythical, and it's like, that's
You
fine.
don't even catch it.
Yeah, in a lot of them you put the code in and you're given the new one. Like, I think Zygarde in Sword and Shield was only available as just, it's a mystery gift, here you go, you have Zygarde now. Even if it's like, look, it was maybe an hour at most, and it was very silly, but it was a story that led to an encounter where you battled and caught the thing, and made the mythical feel like a Pokemon that was an event.
Right.
And I appreciate that effort, and I really hope this is a standard they do going forward, because if you're going to add extra mythicals at the end, at least give me 45 minutes to an hour of, this is what that Pokemon is and why it's important, and you feel like you've got ownership of it. So yeah, silly little side story, but I had fun with it. What about you? You played anything else this week?
We played, well, as I was going to say, a couple of games. We played a good few games now of Project L.
Yeah.
Which was a board game that Mum gave us for UDP.
Yeah.
It is, basically you have a bunch of, like, double layer boards which are puzzles, and they will have particular shapes on them, and rewards and points at the top for filling them in. You have a bunch of polyomino tiles, and you start with a 1x1 and a 2x1, and slowly, by completing puzzles, every time you complete a puzzle, you will get a different tile. It might be one you've already got, it might be a much better one, and on your turn you can either take a puzzle from the table, you can take a 1x1 piece, you can upgrade one of your pieces to the next level. So a 1x1 can become a 2x1, a 2x1 could become like an L-shape 3-piece or a straight line 3-piece.
Yeah.
And then those two types of level 3-piece could be upgraded to any of the 4-point regular Tetris pieces.
Yeah.
It's a really cool idea, and for two people such as ourselves who really struggle with spatial orientation stuff, this is really manageable.
It's been one of the few times a spatial orientation game hasn't been a struggle for us, where we're having to, like, put a finger on something and go, can I, like, have a look at this and put it back if it doesn't fit how I think? And I think it helps that the color-coded chart in front of you is like, I know exactly how many pieces this is made of because of its level.
Yes.
And the puzzles I'm trying to fill the outline in of have little dots so I know explicitly at a glance how long that gap is.
Yeah.
And none of them are, like, particularly complicated shapes.
No.
And it all comes together to be, like, very manageable for us.
It's good. Yeah, and you can knock a game out in like 10-15 minutes. It's got a solo mode. It plays up to 4. The UK version, or the European version, I guess, has German and French language rules on the back. And the manual has, I think, like 6 different languages in it. So it's cool that you can do that and maybe play it with friends who don't necessarily speak as much English.
Yeah.
It's a nice little game, and I'm enjoying it as like a lightweight sort of filler game between things, or when not feeling super brain.
Yeah.
Have you played anything else?
I think that's it for me, really. What about you?
That's all for me as well.
Well then, time for this.
Have you seen the new arrival? He's small and soft. But we are small and soft. He doesn't move much. No, he doesn't move much. But it seems to do a little make noise. I don't know what to make of the fact I saw little mouth things being put in it, and there's a button, but it does make sounds, and it's soft and small. And it seems like his breathing is weird. And they were hugging him for comfort earlier. I know. We often run away when they're after comfort. Yes, but that doesn't mean we'll be replaced. I want comfort if the alternative is someone else gets comfort. Yes, indeed. How do we get rid of the new stuffy? I have claws. Okay, well, I am good at pushing things off table, so I will push it off of table, and then you can get it. Oh, it's soft. Oh, it's soft. It's very nicely. Okay. Okay, friend. I got my eyes on you still. Come.
Hey!
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing alright.
Sorry, just woke up.
Yeah, about that. I've been noticing, I never see you during the day.
Yeah, well, we mainly hang out in the evenings, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but, like, you're always up later than everyone else.
Well, what can I say? Kind of a night owl.
You're always super polite when you go to people's houses. You wait to be, like, explicitly invited in.
Well, I mean, it's only polite. You know, you don't want to get into someone's space.
And I saw that big wooden, sort of, almost person-sized box in your house.
Oh. Yeah?
I think I know what you are. You're a vampire.
I'm in an emo mad.
You what?
I'm in an emo band.
Oh.
Yeah, I know it's been 15 years since that was relevant, but people still want to listen to emo music, and a lot of the people who were really into emo at the time are now, like, well into their 30s, and they still really want to relive that, but they don't necessarily want to live listen to all the same stuff, so we're kind of getting the same vibes, but also for people who are now a little bit older.
Okay, that was like number 3 on my list of guesses. For me, it was going to be vampire, autistic, emo band.
Well, okay, then I'm also autistic and...
Okay, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Vampire was really the wrong swing.
Yeah. Do you think I'd look good with fangs?
I think you look great with fangs. 3 for 3.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
I saw some films at the cinema.
Did you?
I sure did. I'm gonna start with the one that I didn't go and see through any intense plan. There was a mystery film screening occurring that was, there'll be a film. It's at this time. You don't know what you'll be seeing. And I went, I got nothing to do on this particular evening. I'll go
and
see
an unlimited theatre pass?
Yeah, and an unlimited theatre pass. I'll go take a chance and see a film. And what I saw was, I believe the first time I've ever seen a Jason Statham movie start to finish.
I'm Jason Statham.
I'm Jason Statham. I'm a hard man. In a movie called The Beekeeper.
Yes.
And I'm going to try and summarize this film. I'm gonna kind
Without
of...
spoilers.
I'm gonna kind of a little bit spoiler the film, but I'm also gonna give you the context that says maybe you don't go see this film. Despite the fact I had fun with it, and I'll get to that in a minute. So, Jason Statham is a man who is a beekeeper, but also maybe beekeeper might be the name of a secret spy organization. It's not really clear. He's living on an old lady's farm property, like, tending his bees, and this woman gets scammed by a call center into losing all of her money, including about 3 million in, like, money she manages for a charity through one of those, like, I'll take control of your desktop remotely scams, and she shoots herself in the head because she got scammed to hell, and Jason Statham is not happy about this and is gonna go do a Jason Statham and go get revenge. And without getting into the specifics of this, what starts as I'm going to go set a call center on fire escalates to I'm gonna fight the mob and the CIA and the FBI and the Secret Service and make it all the way up to the president. It is a fun, turn your brain off action film that, like, just don't think about it too much. It's a fun, stupid action time. That being said, I have since been informed the director of the film apparently made it explicitly to be about Hunter Biden and the corruption of the Biden family, which is
weird because when you mentioned it, I was like, oh, is the female president the parallel for Hillary? And then you were like, the president's the only one who's not massively corrupt.
Here's the reason, here's the reason I didn't instantly walk out of that film and go, I've just watched right-wing propaganda, is, sure, the son of the president is doing shady shit and is bad and should be in trouble, and I guess I should have seen that was meant to be Hunter Biden, but the president, who is a woman, is the only person with any moral upstanding character, and Jason Statham's like, nah, you're good. I'm not going to hold you accountable for your shitty son's behavior. At least that's how I viewed it at the time. It's weird. If it's meant to be Hunter Biden and the Bidens are evil, there was an opportunity where Jason Statham could have shot the president in the head, and he didn't, and she's basically the only person he didn't shoot in the head. Sorry, he never uses guns. The only person he didn't punch in the head to death. I'm Jason Statham. Like, it was a weird, surreal fever dream of a film to see, in that, like, it escalates quite violently, quite dramatically, and then at one point it, like, drops down, and it goes from, like, exploding buildings to he's hitting a man in the head with a stapler, and it's making, like, a little plasticky hitting sound. Like, the film's pacing is all over the place, but if
you have a chance to not pay money for that.
If you were on a plane, and, like, this showed up on, like, the list of films you'd watch on the back of the seat in front of you, I think you could do worse than watching Jason Statham find an excuse to punch his way up to the president. Now, do so with the knowledge of the intent of the author, but I didn't have a bad time watching, because, like, I've never seen I was fascinated.
Has this put you off going and seeing random mystery films?
Not necessarily. Here's the thing. I think the thing I took away from this, that I don't need to see another Jason Statham film, but it was fascinating as a first-time viewer to, how do I put this? I don't think I've ever seen a film that embodied as much the energy of a 50-year-old dad who is convinced he could fistfight 100 bears right now. Like, that's what that film's energy was, is, like, the power fantasy of I don't care that I'm 57, I can still punch my way through the CIA and the president, and, like, anytime the FBI tried to shoot me, I'd just, like, bullet dodge out the way like the Matrix.
I haven't thought about Jason Statham probably in about 20 years.
Neither have I.
57 at this point?
Look, I'm pulling a run. I'm not saying he's that age. I feel like the people this film are made for are, like, late 50s dads.
The same people that they made Retired and Extremely Dangerous for.
Yeah, you know, nearing retirement dads who really want to believe they could still beat up the entire CIA in a fist fight, even though they're wearing body armor, he could still punch them into submission.
Yeah.
So I watched...
Enjoys propane and propane accessories.
I watched that. I'm going to say another one I watched real quick.
Yeah.
Because I can summarize this. Look, I don't mind spoilering this one a little bit either, because...
spoiler warning, I guess.
Minor spoiler warning for Night Swim. It's a horror film about a swimming pool that's haunted. That film is like 80% tension building about a haunted swimming pool doing spooky, creepy stuff. And the other 10% of the film is... And this is where I'm about to talk spoiler thoughts, because
it's almost a content warning for the film itself,
this is why I'm like, I don't want anyone to get, like, blindsided by this.
Yes.
The film is about a man who used to do baseball and then gets multiple sclerosis and can't do baseball anymore. And the swimming pool is a wishing well, and basically he gets to a point where he's like, I will trade my autistic son to the ghost swimming pool in exchange for getting my baseball powers back. Because my son's autistic, he's got no friends, no one's gonna miss him, swimming pool, take him, give me my powers. Which is kind of fucking shit. And like, look, don't let this entirely necessarily put you off watching it, because I think knowing that, and knowing that the dad has his little turnaround and goes, actually, that's quite shitty of me, take me, not the kid. He gets around to that point. I still think it's an enjoyable build of a horror tension. And I genuinely think if I'd known this going in, I'd have had a more fun time with it, because I'd have seen... This is one of those things where I think knowing what was happening would have made a lot of the early setup to the film more interesting, because looking in hindsight, I can kind of see the build of how they got to that reveal.
Right.
In the moment, it came out of fucking nowhere. But it's interesting. I had a good time with it, even if, yikes, that's quite a fucking... I don't think he's meant to be the hero for that. He's clearly not meant to be the hero, but it's a lot to get thrown at you that's suddenly like, oh, no, I just want to be good at baseball. Take my fucking autistic kid.
Yikes.
Witch living in the swimming pool. So yeah, that's my corner for films that are interesting with caveats that I saw. Not entirely recommends, but like, just know something about them and then make your own decisions. I had a couple of films like that this week.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you watched this week?
We watched season 2 of What If.
We did. This is the Marvel animated sort of alternate universe short stories.
Anthology, allegedly.
Yeah.
This one, whereas the first season felt very much like an anthology until basically the last 2 episodes, this one felt like it was gathering pace and calling to other things way earlier on.
I simultaneously feel like this was laying the seeds for the big finale earlier on, but that the big finale, despite having had more groundwork, felt more rushed and not needed and sort of forced to happen.
And also negated other things that had happened elsewhere.
Yeah, it felt like the finale of this felt like season 1 had a big finale where it all came together and was one thing, so we need one of those here.
Yeah.
Not because it was necessarily best for the anthology, but because they felt they needed to.
Yeah, and it didn't... Whereas the first season felt very much like, here is a bunch of stuff that hasn't really been done.
Yeah.
In like any of the other Marvel properties of the current, I guess, the MCU and the TV universe, which is obviously shared. Whereas that felt like, we're introducing new things. This felt like callback after callback. Firstly, it felt like the Captain Carter series.
Yes, they really, really, really want you to really like Captain Carter as a character. And we like her.
Yeah.
but like,
But also, show us other cool stuff.
give us
interesting.
give us a spin-off series, or like just fucking give it a minute, because this is not her series. Let us see an anthology.
I think the one character that we hadn't seen anything of before turned out to be one of the most interesting and the best, and I hope more is done with that character.
Yes, the standout episode of the season, entire 100%, is the one about the new original character that like is very different to anything else they've done.
Yeah, I'd heard that there was a new character. I'm assuming it is the person that we're both thinking of.
Yeah.
But that was like a really fascinating idea. Yeah, that I wanted more of that, unless, hey, do you remember Marvel Zombies from the first season?
Yeah.
It's the same group of Marvel Zombies from the first season. I don't know. I enjoyed a couple of the episodes that it's beautifully animated. It's not quite Castlevania, but it is still very, very good and an enjoyable spend of what they like 20 minutes each, so like an hour and 20 minutes, I guess, or 2 hours and a bit ish, something like that. Yeah, it was an okay time.
It felt less significant than the first one did.
Yeah, don't give Disney money.
Yeah, anyway. Don't give Disney your money.
Have you watched anything else?
In continued don't give Disney your money, we did start watching Echo.
We did.
The Marvel TV show.
Yeah, I mean, apart from having previous with Hawkeye series, whatever that was called. Was it Hawkeye?
I think it was just called Hawkeye,
Yeah, that barely memorable series for the most part. Maybe it's the fact that there's too much of it. But, so far, we've had little bits of recap of this is how it ties into that. Remember that?
Yeah. Here is a recap show with some connecting tissue, a little bit.
It does. Some of the first episode made me go, I think I need to see other people's opinion on this. Because it felt a bit like messing with a culture that I don't know enough about to go, is this problematic or not?
Yeah. I will say, some stuff I have seen discussed that I think is interesting and I can comment on. There's been some really interesting discussion of the amount of American Sign Language versus sign-supported English used in the show. And
the way that's used, sometimes deliberately.
The ways that it's used to convey the kinds of relationships that the main character has to often the speaking people in her life.
Yes.
And specifically, like, I think this is not necessarily a spoiler because this is a thing that sort of came up in Hawkeye a bit. The fact that Kingpin doesn't speak to her using sign language. He always has an interpreter on hand. Yeah. Versus...
He's supposedly been working with her for years and never bothered learning.
And it's great that you make sure there's always an interpreter available, but you're not making the step to try and do basic sign-supported English of the signs you know.
Yeah.
Up to and including the people who actually use sign language grammar with her, and I'm like, that's really interesting. And there's occasional interesting use of quiet in scenes because deaf character. I don't think they always commit to that idea as well as they could. I kind of wish...
They're almost afraid to be quiet for too long.
Yes. I would love it. There's, at one point there is a fight sequence that, half of is, very, very quiet and most of the sound is not there. And I thought that was great. And then they cowered out halfway through and start putting the fight sounds back in. And I'm like, just don't be afraid to just have a fucking quiet fight scene.
There was one scene that seemed like it was trying to do something interesting with that, where she was on her own in a space and it was all completely silent, and then a window smashes to a space where there are other people, and that's when the sound came in, and I thought that was quite interesting. But again, it's too afraid to be quiet. I guess it feels weird because we've talked recently about Alien being willing to be quiet, and other films willing to take the time to be quiet or.
Yeah, and now that we're a little separated from it, I can talk about the fact that Spider-Man 2 on the PS5 has a sequence where you are playing as a character, Haley, who is deaf, and that entire sequence is entirely differently audio balanced.
Yes.
And I really like how that scene was handled audio design-wise. And, that's a really good sign of how you can do something like that right.
Yeah.
And
also doing a whole thing of deaf might not necessarily mean you don't hear anything.
Yes.
It's reduced to such a level where
Yeah.
it becomes a disability.
What sounds can you hear, and how do they sound to you?
Yes, she's basically EQ'd to, like, all the top end is gone. There's no treble at all. It's a lot of very heavy bass, and sometimes just the sound's just not quite hitting at all.
The sounds that she is making with, like, her footsteps obviously are more audible because bone conduction, like, they're going through her body as opposed to exterior sounds. Like, those are the kinds of things that, like, Echo feels like it wanted to try and then cowered it out and backed away and went, will a mainstream audience be put off by this? Yeah. And that's a shame.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with it. I feel like we've not really watched enough to see where they're going to go. Apparently the whole season is out. We haven't tried watching it yet, but yeah, we'll let you know, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you watched anything else?
I think that's it for me, really.
Well, then.
Time for this.
Hey, Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you wake up in the morning?
I mean, I try.
And, well, and do you have, like alarms on your phone for that?
I have a series of alarms, some of which function rousing me.
Well, and do you find that the problem seems to be that after a little while, that the alarm just stopped working?
My brain auto-tune. It's like, it's fine. Something else will wake me up, and it's fine.
Well, what if instead of that, you had alarmrandomizer.lol.net?
Tell me more.
It's an app that will just randomize your alarm to the most obnoxious new thing that you've never heard before that's entirely different from your alarm every single day. Every single snooze.
Let me have a look at the list of possible things that could, some of which could happen. Fire alarm beep, and a dramatic voice telling me there's a fire, get up, check your phone, there's news about the fire on there probably. There's this one, which is just very loud sound of drilling.
I see that. There's the deepbreath.lol.net monitor from last week. The sound of that not working properly.
There is the scraping sound of ice in the freezer being scraped. Just very loudly playing.
Oh, there's the sound of someone coming through your front door.
Oh, that's unsettling.
We'll get you up, though.
I mean, that will get me up.
The sound of your mum calling you could be more or less unsettling depending on who you are in your situation, I guess.
I mean, I would be unsettled. That's not a thing that regularly happens.
I didn't even remember what she sounds like, to be honest. It's been a very long time.
How does the app know what she sounds like? Oh.
That's not to ask about that. I'm sure that's a GDPR issue. Anyway, that's alarmrandomizer.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS 290, and you can wake up on time or be unsettled and in bed.
One of the two.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I started doing something fun at the weekend.
Right, yeah, what do you got?
Well, I was chatting to some of the execs at some of the other game studios.
Right.
And one of them had this real funny idea, and I think it's
hunting interns for sport again.
Oh no! We've done that before, and we got in trouble for that. But we technically can't get in trouble for this one as long as they don't find out we're doing it.
Right.
So I've joined a betting pool.
Oh, nice.
With the other studios on
like Skeevy Soft.
Yeah. On who can fire the most employees this year.
My God, that is genius.
Right. And I've stayed quiet about it, but I think I have a winning strategy this time.
Right.
I think we have the biggest company out of all our competitors, so we could just fire everyone and win.
Everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. But if we want to make sure we definitely win, we lay everyone off,
right,
and then go. Well, actually, there was a clerical error. Do you want to be hired back? And we hire them back, and then just fire them again right away. And we just really
double dipping.
Yeah, we just absolutely screw around with their sense of job security and the fact that they need an employment to get 2 or 3 points out of one employee.
How about this? We say we're having a huge intake day.
Ooh.
There's going to be huge numbers of people. There's loads of new jobs going. We'll be hiring for all sorts of levels. We'll tell all of the current employees that there's like a $1,000 bonus if your guy gets to stay here for the like the first 6 months probation. That that they'll get like $1,000 like headhunting fee for that, and then we do the interviews. We say they're hired, and as they're walking out of the building, we say they're fired. And then we also fire all of the current team.
I think that's absolutely fucking genius. You are a fucking genius.
I know. I'm winning that pool.
We're winning that pool.
Yes.
So, what have you put in your ears?
There's only really one thing.
There is only one thing
that I've put in my ears. Without talking about spoilers, we've listened to the first 2 episodes of the Magnus Protocol.
Yes.
Which we've talked about Magnus Archives before. The Magnus Archives was a 180 odd episode horror anthology that started off seeming like it was unconnected short form horror stories, and then maybe become something a bit bigger as it goes on. This is, I think it's fair to say, a sequel to that. I think I've seen it referred to as a sequel.
I think it is specifically referred to as a sequel to the Magnus Archives.
Yep. And without getting into specifics too much, there are 2 episodes we've heard.
Yes.
The first episode is very much setting up a new cast of characters and location and set of dynamics.
Yes. Rather than being a private collection and I don't even know what you call it. I guess just a private collection and the archiving of that and so forth. I don't really understand archival in that sort of aspect. Beyond, I can file things. But this is very much like, this is a government branch where a bunch of people are seemingly like reading forum posts, seeming sometimes people's emails, logs of communications of unsettling events, and the people who either read through them if they appear on screen, or occasionally have them read out.
Occasionally the computer will start just reading a thing.
Because there seems to be ghosts in the machine.
Yes,
and then they have to classify those using complicated methods.
The classification reminded me of watching Severance, and how are you sorting this stuff? I mean, look, it's more just like a feeling, like I'm looking for numbers that feel like bad numbers, and I'll know it if it's a bad one.
Yeah.
It's got that feel of like, we could put these zombies under zombies, but like I feel like they should be under undead,
be, like reanimated and like familiar or something.
Yeah, and that'll give it like a number that's probably around here somewhere.
Yeah.
And like there's comments of like, it's not precise. There's sort of, you feel it out.
And maybe no one's actually paying any attention to how many things, but there does seem to be like quotas.
Yeah.
And weird power dynamics, and all this talk of someone's developing an app, and maybe people who work there are involved in trying to do some work on company time for their own project.
Yes, and then episode 2, without getting too much into it, is where I think this starts to show its Magnus Archives colours.
Yes.
Episode 2, if you listen to episode 1 and go, like, this is not what I picture a Magnus sequel being.
Yes.
Episode 2 is the one where you will hear a story that is a piece of standalone short-form horror and go, oh, you lot have not lost the ability to tell very effective self-contained short-form horror on very human, real topics that are very relevant today in a way that is, like, viscerally gripping.
Yes.
Like, they have not lost that storytelling ability.
Oh no.
It's a damn well told story.
It is. It's going to be out for the public by the time this episode is also out for the public. I think the 18th is the official.
Yeah, we don't know if it's just the first one going up on that date or the first 2. But if you listen to the first one and aren't sold as a Magnus person, listen to episode 2. I think episode 2 is where it, like, some of that Magnus stuff clicks.
Yeah, I feel like they had a lot to set up. I don't know why they had a lot to set up. I am fascinated by that. But yes, I am curious to know what these people doing this weird night job of listening to horror and categorizing it for maybe someone, maybe not, who knows? And yes, obviously trying to keep it spoiler free. But so yeah, I'm excited to see I can't remember how many episodes there's going to be per season, but I think we've got like 4 seasons coming of this. Was what the Kickstarter was for. So yeah, I'm fascinated to hear what happens next.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you listened to anything else?
That's really it for me. That's the only thing of real note.
Well then,
Time for this.
Right. I've been hearing back from the editors, and we might have. We're gonna need to get creative. We've got that new musical coming out.
A musical? I thought we'd said that we weren't going to do any more musicals because every time we show them to the test audiences, they're just terribly upset about being there at all.
Yeah, but then every time we hear from we ask like focus groups, what do you want more of? They say we want musicals, so it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well we'll get the rights to the musicals. It's
Yeah, of
happened
course.
again. We got the rights to a
Right.
musical, and then the test audiences were like, what do you want about it? We don't like test music. We don't like
Right.
musicals. Why are we watching musicals?
Maybe there's an issue with the test audiences themselves.
Oh, I don't know. But we've got a bigger problem. It is, I thought we would just get the editors to do that trick we've been doing recently, where we just sort of cut the trailer so we don't show any of the musical.
They'll never understand. It'll just be occasionally people might pose strangely, and people won't really think about that. Maybe they'll think it's just a party scene or something. But we'll know. We'll
Oh,
know.
indeed. But the problem is, we went over the footage.
Right.
There's only 14 seconds in which there's no singing.
Right. Well, maybe if we could have lots of swipes of big bold letters coming onto a black background.
Oh, yes, and we have sort of generic sort of sweeps across stock footage scenery, similar to where the film will be set.
Right. Yes.
And maybe we get the actors back in to just redub some lines, saying the words that are in the song, but
Rather
like
than
not to just
singing it.
singing
Yes,
them,
yes,
and we can
yes,
just sort of dub them over the footage.
Like
so
an
it's
ADR thing.
Yeah, they're sort of dancing around the screen while going, this is the life. I'm living my life.
Yes.
Woe is me. Hurrah, living my life.
Yes.
But they're not singing it, so maybe that will work.
Maybe that's a jolly good idea. Maybe we could use some of that AI stuff, since we managed to get that through. We got some of the AI voice dialogue stuff. We can change it, and it'll be those actors saying the words, and it'll do the slay down, and it'll save us all that money on having to get the actors back in.
Wonderful. Perfect. No one will ever see it coming. And I'm sure there will be no negative consequences to marketing a film not as if it's a musical and then secretly it's a musical.
Exactly. No one will know that Jason Statham could sing like that.
Exactly.
Voice of an angel.
Oh,
I'm Jason Statham.
I'm keeping some bees.
Glorious. Oh, it's this map again, dear.
Oh, God, haven't they added anything new recently?
No, I haven't had a new map in a while. No new game modes, no nothing. Okay, right. Now, which class are you?
Oh, the one with the really big gun there, the one
The
with the
heavy,
big,
yes,
yes,
the heavy,
the
yes.
big gun one.
Yes. Well, I'll be the scout, of course, is running around now. Do keep an eye out because the enemy spy from the last round was it was right in our base. I'll tell you what. Camped me a few
goodness.
times. I got completely ganked wandering round a corner.
Absolutely rude behavior.
Terribly rude behaviour. I say, do you like my new hat?
Oh, it's stunning. It's stunning.
Yes,
Absolutely wonderful.
Okay, right, I'm on the objective. Get on the objective. Come on, team. Come on, team.
I'm on it.
Yes,
Let's push.
Push, everyone, push. Yes.
Oh, those
Very
not-
good, everyone. Very
Not
good.
carrying their weight, are they?
No, they're not carrying their weight. Well, time for another game of sherry, I think, and then we're ready to... Yes, that's it. We got another point victory for us.
Wonderful. Game of sherry it is.
Game of sherry. It's got extra caffeine in it.
do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Racial justice warriors.
Racial Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
Right there. Right, Barry. How you doing?
Mate, very full of pizza. You doing all right?
Oh, pretty similar actually.
Oh, nice,
I'm real,
nice.
real stuff with dinner.
Nice, yeah. Oh, yeah, birthday celebration, as it were.
Yeah.
You been up to much?
Oh, being a little bit exhausted.
It's that time of year, isn't it?
Well, it's that time of year, but also I've run into a few people recently that have mildly frustrated me. Yeah. Well, this is specifically. I know a few people more than I would like who are a bit more dubious of science than I would like.
Which is weird, because, I'd thought at this point we'd both have managed to, wheedle out all the people who, the science deniers and so forth, because, we've managed to have quite the cull in the last few years of people who weren't into all that.
And look, I mean, even having been very, cutting people where needed, the last few years have really bred a lot of insidious, like, anti-intellectualism and anti-science thinking into even, I would say, the more rational people who, were not particularly skeptic before. And it's been really disappointing to see because, like, I don't think it's a coincidence. A lot of this has been on the rise since COVID, and real rise in medical fear-mongering has, whether people want to admit it or not, really led a lot of people to go, it's not that I don't believe in vaccines, but, I'm a bit dubious of some of them for, since COVID, they made it suspicious, they made it quick, that's not a good thing, I'm suspicious.
Yeah, and, conveniently ignoring the fact that it was based on technology that had been, trying to gain a foothold for a long period of time, as I understand it.
A, that, and B, a pandemic was sweeping the globe and every country on the planet was pouring huge resources into actually funding scientific research.
It's that whole necessity being the mother of invention thing, isn't it?
Exactly, but, like, it's been disappointing because, like, there's a lot of things that are, like, very clearly conspiracy that people have, like, backdoored their way into thinking. Like, I think it's fair to say that pharmaceutical companies have a lot of money and are not always perfect, and sometimes have profit motives above health motives in some cases. That can be true. But, to use that to go, and therefore I'm not gonna get vaccines, is like, it fucking boggles my mind. Because, like, my take is, go back 100 years. The invention of, like, the polio vaccine. Fucking, like, absolutely basically eradicated a disease from the planet. Vaccines as a thing at all, relatively recent in humanity's history, that we worked out how to prevent diseases from spreading, and that's fucking magic. I am all for, I'm so all for vaccines. I'm like, me, I've gone and had, vaccines tested on me sometimes.
Up the wazoo.
Exactly. I'm like, give me your test ones, because, like, someone's got to go test them before they're 100% approved, because, science got to happen, and it feels depressing that we're living in a world where people are not cheering from the rafters about the medical miracle that, that are happening every day.
Yeah, it's deeply concerning when, people who are otherwise very intelligent and, otherwise you would think are generally very right thinking about things and supportive of stuff, have just apparently been fed enough on the outskirts, on the seams of things, where they're not going right wing or anything, but they certainly are like, hang on, I have a weird feeling about this, which they really shouldn't have for it.
Exactly. It's the I'm not gonna say that vaccines cause autism, but, like, I'm not gonna go get a vaccine offered to me, day one it's available, because, what if? And it's like, well,
I understand if that had been a person of colour, and, the history of the way scientists were certainly testing things, I can understand from that point of view, but when it is just someone going, where your average, white friend from down the road going, oh, well, I'm not sure about this, and the thing they were suspending the vaccine in wasn't exactly the same as the one that they were, doing the original testing on people. So it's a different product. It feels like very fucking weird.
Yeah, and you see some of them going like, well, I remember the thalidomide situation. It's like, yeah, but in the years since then, you were perfectly happy to take, vaccines and medication.
Yeah, you've had MMR, and some of you perhaps take more medication than, a lot of other people.
Yeah, and it's not like, that scared you off of medication then. It's something much more recent. Like, you are coming up with excuses for the fact that you have started to get weirdly anti-science.
Yeah.
And it's...
I understand, it's fucking insidious, especially if you use a service like YouTube. The number of times I've, maybe been scrolling through YouTube Shorts because something I saw entertaining, but by the time I've scrolled, 15 or 20 deep, having, seen a couple of things that vaguely entertained me or interested me or were, sufficiently memeable. And, then next thing I know, I'm being fed, clips from the Joe Rogan show or clips from something else. And that, especially on YouTube, that is particularly insidious of if you let it recommend you things long enough and you're not the kind of person who is aware enough of beware of right-wing dickheadery.
Yeah,
it's far too easy to just have that shit fed to you.
YouTube has had that problem for a very long time. Of if you let things autoplay, it will funnel you to right-wing content real easy. And it's a shame because as I said, humanity has invented some fucking world-changing stuff with science. Science is fucking magic, and it's depressing that not everyone sees the absolute miracle that science is that I see when I look at it.
Yeah, well, it's a testament to the ingenuity and the skill and the minds of scientists throughout the ages that they've managed to get as far as they have with things. And it's especially concerning in today's day and age where scientists are struggling to be able to do the kind of science they want to do because it's not necessarily going to make the people who make sure they have enough money to do their experiments and to practice their craft. You've got to find something that's marketable in many ways, which is a shame.
There are criticisms to be had of medical science, but don't use that as an excuse to scare you off of improving your quality of life through not getting diseases and getting treatment for the diseases you have.
Yeah, because what we are already seeing is the whole vaccine scares has created, we talked about the fact that TB is on the rise again.
Oh, God, yeah.
That polio might be coming back, even though at one point there was talk about it having been basically completely erased, and all because of, anti-science, anti-intellectualism, and, I'm not above the possibility feeling that, if you want a conspiracy theory, it's the fact that, there are certain parties that are not above trying to feed that particular information to groups that they might consider their enemies.
Yeah.
Fancy hug, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good hug, mate.
Good luck.
Right, I think go and have some more birthday cake.
Oh, lovely.
So, Laura,
Yes?
you do things, and those things are on the internet, and people would like to enjoy those things. Tell us about the things.
I do things and stuff on the internet, and you can find those things and stuff at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Mastodon, Blue Sky, all the things. You can find me at Laura K. Buzz. Check out the full accessibility videos about both Prince of Persia and The Last of Us Part 2, which should probably both be up about the time that you hear this over on youtube.com/LauraKBuzz. Just Laura K. Buzz, you'll find all the stuff that I do. What about you? Where are you on the internet?
Well, I don't have the unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linktree.ee/Janiac. JANEIAC. You can find all the t-shirts I design, the music I make under the name Bedroom Programmer. You can help support me at patreon.com/StonedMonkeyRadio for as little as $1 a month. You can help me deal with the shortcomings of freelance work. Oh, it's fun being a freelancer, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do all that. And also, maybe if you know someone who might be into this, maybe do us a little share, because it's my birthday today, and I'm recording this because we care very much about all of you, and you deserve a little bit of entertainment in your life, and I am here to provide it for you. So, Laura...
Yeah?
Will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.
Exactly. No one will know that Jason Statham could sing like that.
Exactly.
Voice of an angel.
Oh,
I'm Jason Statham.
I'm keeping some bees.
Glorious.
It turned out the beekeeper was secretly a right.
Yeah, did I forget to mention during the review? Did I forget to mention it was? Did I mention that to you, Jane?
No,
It
you
was a
didn't.
musical. Yeah, I'm
Jason
killing.
Statham.
I'm gonna kill the president.
I'm gonna kill Hunter, but I mean the president's son.
Am I not the president though? Because the president's apparently okay in this analogy for some reason.
Yeah.
Don't you dare scam that old lady, or I'm gonna
keeping
burn
these
your call
bees.
centre.
I'm not gonna let these bees escape. I'm keeping the bees.
They shot my bees.
Here. They shot my fucking bees. I'll show them fucking colony collapse.
There's a thing in a colony called a Queen Slayer, and I'm gonna slay the Queen, in this case the President.
Into every hive, in every generation, a slayer is born, and I will be the slayer.
Of bees.
Of bees.
No, not of bees.
No, I'm the survivor of bees. Oh, bugger, no, I've accidentally killed all the bees because the song made me do it, and I sung the wrong lyrics. Oh, fuck. I'm Jason Statham. Well, I guess I know what's going on the end of this episode.
Movie executives, cast Jason Statham in your musical.